When governments spend, economies move. Roads get built, schools run, pensions get paid, and sometimes wars get funded. But where does all that money come from? How is it spent? And what happens when governments spend too much or too little? In this deep dive, we're decoding government spending, one of the most powerful forces behind how modern economies function. We'll explore what it is, where it goes, how it's funded, and why it sparks some of the biggest debates in economics and politics. Welcome to Unravel, Money and Economics. In this channel, we simplify the world of finance, economics, and money so you can understand how it all works, no matter your background. Government spending refers to everything the government pays for, whether it's a new highway, a school teacher's salary, a warship, or a public hospital. It's the money used to run the country and provide services to the public. This spending happens at multiple levels. Federal or national level, things like national defense, foreign aid, pensions, and large infrastructure projects. State or provincial level, education, transportation, public health, and local or municipal level, trash collection, local police, water systems. Broadly, government spending falls into two categories. Mandatory spending. This is spending required by law, like pensions, healthcare, or debt interest. Discretionary spending. This is spending that governments vote on each year, like education, infrastructure, or defense. In countries like the US, mandatory spending makes up the majority of the federal budget, often over 60%. So where does the government get the money to spend? Mainly from taxes, income taxes, paid by workers and businesses, sales taxes or VAT, paid when people buy goods, property taxes collected by local governments. But taxes alone usually aren't enough to cover all expenses. That's where borrowing comes in. Governments borrow money by issuing bonds, like US Treasury bonds or UK gilts. Investors buy them. The government promises to pay them back with interest later. Sometimes, in extreme cases, governments print money, but this is risky. Printing too much money without backing it with real production can cause inflation. Think Zimbabwe or Venezuela. In most cases, it's a mix of taxes and borrowing that funds government spending. Example: in the US, over 80% of government revenue comes from income and payroll taxes. The rest comes from corporate taxes, excise taxes, tariffs, and other sources. Government spending touches nearly every part of our daily lives. Let's break it down by category with examples. 1. Social spending, healthcare. National health systems like Canada's or the UK's NHS, or public insurance like Medicare. Pensions, Social Security, public retirement programs. Welfare and unemployment benefits, helping people during hard times. Social spending helps reduce poverty and inequality, and is often a major part of the budget. 2. Education, public schools, universities, student loan programs. Teacher salaries, school infrastructure. Education spending is seen as an investment in human capital, future productivity. 3. Infrastructure, roads, bridges, public transport, airports, clean water systems. Often includes broadband, utilities, and green infrastructure projects. Infrastructure spending creates short-term jobs and long-term economic growth. 4. Defense and national security. Military personnel, weapons systems, defense research. Intelligence, border security, and cybersecurity. Some countries, like the US, spend massive amounts on defense, often the largest discretionary expense. 5. Science, research, and innovation. Public research agencies like NASA, NIH, or the European Space Agency. Investments in green energy, AI, medicine, and space tech. Public R&D often leads to breakthroughs that private industry builds on. 6. Public safety and services. Police, fire departments, disaster response, justice system. Local services like snow removal or emergency shelters. 7. Interest on national debt. This is a big one. Governments pay interest to those who buy their bonds. The more debt a country has, the more it spends just servicing the interest. Money that could have gone to public programs. Why does the government take on such a massive role in the economy? 1. Stimulating the economy. During recessions, private businesses cut back. Government spending helps fill that gap. keeping people employed and money flowing. This is called counter-cyclical spending. 2. Providing public goods. Some things, like clean air, national defense, or a justice system, can't be provided well by the private market. 3. Redistributing income. Programs like Social Security, welfare, and healthcare reduce inequality and offer basic protections. 4. Correcting market failures. Think environmental protection. Without regulation or investment, pollution might spiral out of control. 5. Planning for the future. Spending on education, infrastructure, and clean energy helps build a better long-term economy. This idea, using spending to boost demand and reduce unemployment, comes from Keynesian economics. The idea is that during hard times, governments should spend more, not less. Here's where things get controversial. When governments spend more than they earn, they run a budget deficit. Do this year after year, and you build up national debt. But debt isn't always bad. Borrowing can be smart if it leads to future growth, like investing in roads, education, or tech. Some debt is even considered safe, especially if investors trust the country to pay it back. For example, Japan has a debt-to-GDP ratio of over 200%, but very low interest rates. The US has a large national debt, but because its bonds are seen as stable, it continues to borrow easily. In contrast, some developing nations face crises when their debt gets too high, especially if it's owed in foreign currencies. Debt becomes a problem when it grows faster than the economy, or when a large chunk of spending goes just to pay interest. That limits what's available for future generations. Government spending is one of the most hotly debated topics in politics and economics. The left, generally, supports higher public investment, believes in redistributing wealth to support social programs, views government as a force for equality and stability. The right, generally, prefers smaller government and lower taxes, warns about deficits, inefficiency, and dependence, believes the private sector does most things better. These debates play out in elections, protests, policy changes, and even in financial markets. After the 2008 crisis, many European countries imposed austerity, cutting spending to reduce deficits. The result? Slower recoveries and rising unemployment. In contrast, countries like the US used stimulus packages, massive government spending to support jobs, healthcare, and industry. There's no one-size-fits-all answer. The challenge is balancing economic support with financial responsibility. Government spending isn't just some abstract concept. It affects your everyday life. Your education might be publicly funded. Your healthcare might be subsidized. Whether you're for or against more spending, understanding how it works is essential to being financially informed and civically engaged. Government spending can lift economies or break them. It reflects our values, shapes our future, and affects our daily lives. Now that you understand where the money goes, who decides, and why it matters, you'll be better prepared to follow economic news and make informed decisions. Have a topic you're curious about? Let us know in the comments, and hit subscribe so you don't miss what's next. As we continue to unravel the world of money and economics, one concept at a time.